So he came in from the Winnebago agency. He would have come in through that agency, even though he was Omaha. The notation where it says on the top, it says dead.
Yeah.
Um, when he returned, he must have passed away when he went back to, I don't know if it would have been Nebraska. His age was 15. He was 15 years old for 5 years. Both of his parents had passed away when he was sent to Carlisle. So, what you might want to do is look at one of the newspapers from August 1882 to see if there were if a whole group of kids were brought in from the Winnebago agency who were Omaha. Say who brought them in, how they were recruited, where exactly they came from. We could really put together a whole narrative of this young kid. He was what, 5'11"? It looks like 5'11", and he weighed 132 pounds. So he was slight. He was not a big kid.
Mm-hmm.
And where it says forced INSP and forced EXPRs, see that on that
Oh,
third
yeah.
line?
Yeah.
That means when he breathed in, his chest was 35 and a quarter inches. And when he breathed out, it was 34 inches. That was a measurement to determine any kind of respiratory disease like tuberculosis. Those
Oh,
measurements were important, and that's why they're standard. This whole card is a template of what every kid was identified, the information that they were identified with when they came in.
wow. And so below where it says to country, patron's name
Mhm.
and address, what does
Yep.
that all mean?
Yeah. So, at the Carlisle Indian School, Carlisle was an industrial training school, so students had academics for half a day, and they learned a trade for the other half day. And they were enrolled, like this boy was enrolled for 5 years. So that meant he was not gonna go home for a whole 5-year period. And so in the summertime, when kids were typically on summer vacation, these children were sent out into non native homes where they lived in those homes and worked for a non native family. So, Frank, in April of 83, Frank was sent to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Lancaster County is where a lot of Amish and Mennonite farmers are. So he was probably sent into a farm family in Lime Valley to the home of C.H. Herr, Herr. That's a real typical German, um, Mennonite name. So I would assume he was living in that farm. And that was in 1883, the spring after he got to Carlisle. So he might still have been 15 years old when he was sent to that farm. And he was there from April through September. So he would have, what, May, June, July? He was there for 5 or at least 4 months. So he would have been completely immersed in that white family household
Um,
and separated from all the other Indian kids who were at the school. So imagine for this 15-year-old kid coming from the agency, from Yellow Smoke's clan, being thrust in this farm, and he probably had to help out on the farm, with the all summer. So all the farming stuff that they would have been doing, right? They would have been planting and probably weeding, and depending on how sophisticated that farm was. And then in September, he went back to Carlisle and went back to school. And then in December of that same year, he was sent to Schuylkill County, which is kind of in the area closer to Philadelphia.
Thank you
Both
guys.
of those
Appreciate it.
counties are east of Carlisle, and they're both pretty heavy farming communities.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there from December 1st, 1883 through April of 84. So that's another 5 months. He would have been living with this Keller family, J.S. Keller, in, it looks like Orwigsburg, Pennsylvania.
He returned back to the school April 7th, and a couple weeks later, he was discharged for ill health. So
Right,
he must have
right.
been, he could have
He
been
was
sick
sick.
when he got back.
He could have been sick. He could have gotten sick at the farm. You know, and but the thing is, he was only 15, so why was he sent back out in December during the
Uh,
school year? There's a story there for sure. But I mean, but this is a perfect way to look at um this whole episode in one kid's life, because you can really piece together a little bit about the history of what happened at the school, especially with the outing system. Going
mhm.
to and from the country, that was called the outing program. And that was unique to Carlisle. And it was pretty much designed by Richard Henry Pratt, who was the founder of the school. So when Frank Morris was at Carlisle, Richard Henry Pratt was the school superintendent. So he certainly would have known Pratt.